So Xenoblade is my favourite game franchise ever. These games make you feel connected to the world, the story and the characters more than any other franchise out there. I could go on about any singular part of these games for hours on end, but today I've come to you with what I think is the saddest 10 deaths in the games. With how lovable these characters are, their deaths hit home like nothing else. I've spent so many hours watching these scenes back, and today I finally get to make my own list. There are some characters I had to leave off the list, but these are the ones that I think are contextually the saddest in the franchise.
You are the hope of the High Entia. You will not transform into a Telethia.
Callian was the brother of Melia, and their family went through unimaginable tragedy throughout the course of the game. First, their father was killed, then their race was annihilated, and their home destroyed. Callian was always a friendly face, being kind towards the party, letting Melia travel with them even though he was going through so much turmoil himself. He was dealing with the weight of picking up where his dead father left off, the weight of knowing that their race would soon be eradicated and turned into Telethia, and wanting to protect everyone at the same time. He is a key figure in the fight against the Mechons, and one of the only leading figures at this point in the game. Callian is met with the betrayal of both Dixon and Lorithia, the latter betraying her whole race at 0 hour. We see Callian display his mental fortitude so many times in the story, but it breaks you here when he sacrifices himself to keep Melia and the party alive, even though everyone he loves has just been killed. The one final act of love he can give to the world that has let him down over and over again. Except, this sacrifice doesn't kill him, and we meet him again in the Bionis interior, where Lorithia has him held, half transformed into his hideous Telethia form, but mentally he's gone. A shell, an empty body that Lorithia uses to kill the party. In his last moments after the fight, Callian appears to Melia and delivers one of the most tear-jerking speeches in one of the most emotional scenes with one of the most emotional songs in the whole series.
That is the hope of the High Entia.
Thank you, brother.
So, you can activate it now then.
Well, anyone can act.
I think the voice acting in these games is one of the most underappreciated areas in them. I love Dixon and the performance that Anthony May gives in the role, so his character is elevated to another level because his voice is so iconic and he steals absolutely every scene he's in. Dixon is the father figure of Shulk, the main character in Xenoblade Chronicles 1, so we see his character develop a lot over the course of the game. He's there at the very beginning when he finds Shulk cold and alone and takes him in as his own. He shows up for him when Metalface attacks him and journeys with him for a bit after. He is unbelievably cool, from his voice to his demeanour, but as he gets more and more mysterious, we begin to wonder if he really is on Shulk's side. But you think, he did fight alongside one of Shulk's best friends for so long. He saved Shulk's life, and he helped to lead the attack on the Mechons, but the whole time we knew something about him is off. We get little hints as we go through the game, praying that he isn't actually evil. So when he shoots Shulk at the end and seemingly kills him, our hearts break. The man who Shulk looks up to, who saved his life, killing him in front of his friends, even calling him a brat after, like he never even cared about him at all to reawaken the god inside of Shulk who he secretly served. Dixon loved Shulk, but he didn't truly love Shulk, not enough to give up the pursuit of power. So when the party encounters Dixon for the last time, right at the end of the game, it is bittersweet. He has such a complex relationship with Shulk, but at the same time, it's not complex. He's just a bad guy, but the image of him sitting there, dying alone, will never leave my mind. Shulk has to kill the man who raised him, and the cycle of life finally came back to hit him.
Looks like the student finally surpassed the teacher.
Shulk. His wounds.
At last, Metra.
Malos is the villain we spend the most time with in the whole series. While both Jin and En are both part of the DLCs of their games, it's different, because Jin is a good guy in his, and En isn't the main villain in his. Malos shines as the main villain of both the prequel and the main game of Xenoblade 2. He is a man molded and manipulated by the cruel will of Amalthus, leading him to wonder who he really is and who he would have been if he wasn't awakened by quite possibly the most evil man in the world. He doesn't feel like he has a place in this world, but his personality has been shaped so much by the malice of his driver that he feels the only way out is to ask his creator, the architects, why he exists, and then to kill him. This is a sad premise, but his story isn't particularly sad compared to the other characters on this list. Malos is a man who has inherited many things from Amalthus, one of which being his drive and determination. Where so many other Xenoblade villains crack and show humanity in the face of what they're doing, Malos is evil to the end. We can't truly empathize with him, because he never shows kindness to the party, he never does anything redeemable, and his history is so straightforward compared to everyone else. He is hopeless evil. He has never had human connection, unlike everyone else in Torna. The only person he ever acquainted himself with was Amalthus, so he was lost from the beginning. Malos just wants everything to be over. Even if it was only for a short time, everyone else in Torna has experienced the good bits of living. Malos never knew that. He was born into malice and terrorism and blood, so he knows nothing else. Even when he grows his own will and ideas separate to Amalthus, they are reduced down to killing because he's never known anything else. We meet him a lot throughout our adventure in the game. He is always thwarting us, killing and kidnapping people we love over the course of our long journey. He despises Rex and looks down on him for using the power of Numa, his equal, despite being such a young kid. To Malos, Rex is the light in the world that he had never seen before. It took 500 years for Malos to see that light, to see warmth, what companionship can do. Amalthus was the worst thing to happen to the world, and to Malos, and he laments that. He serves as the final boss of the game, and after everything the party's been through, after every single other villain has been dealt with, even Amalthus, Malos is the last one standing. He's the only one who makes it up the world tree. Everyone he knows is dead. He saw the stars so that the only people he ever knew to be nice to him could rest. At the end, when he's found his answer from the architects, and he's lying in the hangar, dying after our fight with him, he tells Rex that he wishes he met him sooner, and I think we all wish that happened.
If I had been your driver, all of this.
Kids say the damnedest things. There was only one driver for me. All in all, it wasn't so bad.
Malos.
Looks like he's finally found it.
You could always try it out.
Milton's death for a smaller side character has massive effects on the story of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. We see him in the prequel story, where he travels with the party and has been travelling with them for several years. His village was destroyed, and he became friends with everyone in the party really quickly, and when Mikhail joins the party, he becomes great friends with him too, and they are always seen together. It seems like these two would grow up together, as best friends, and having the two kids around in the party really brings up the mood outside of battle. They love Milton, and they take care of him even though he can't help them. They care about him and want to keep him safe. This, unfortunately, is what kills him, where he dies during the final battle with Malos. After everyone told him and Mikhail to stay in the city while they fought, it was supposed to be safe, but the battle between Mithra and Malos that followed shaped the rest of the game to come. The city was utterly devastated. Milton sacrifices himself to save Mikhail's life, who then carries his body all the way to the refugee ship as the Tornan Titan sinks below the Cloud Sea. Milton was too young to die, he was too bright of a light, but the calamity of war made sure his light would never shine, and when Mithra reaches out to Milton's lifeless body, Mikhail pulls him away, something which would shape both of their lives well into the future. Milton's death, and by extension the death of all of Torna, causes Mithra to retreat within herself completely, leading her to question why she exists and the events that happen with her in the main game.
Do me a favor, Ryan. Take care of Sharla.
Gaddo really embodies tragedy. He was engaged to Sharla, and they were meant to be married until he was taken from her in an attack by the Mechons on their home, Colony 6. Sharla and her brother had to leave him behind while he defended their home and tried to protect as many people as possible. We don't really spend much time with Gaddo, but with what little we get, I feel like it's really affecting. We learn partway through the story that some humans are taken by the Mechons and assimilated by them, losing their memories and becoming a killing machine. This happens to Mumkar, Fiora, and finally during the ascent through the Mechonis, it is revealed that it also happened to Gaddo. This is a heartbreaking moment, especially for Sharla. We always had the lingering possibility that Gaddo could have been turned into a Mechon because Sharla felt it in her gut that he was still alive, out there somewhere. So to see her fiancé turned into a machine with no memory memory of her is heartbreaking. Gado fights us, not knowing who we are, who Sharla is, and she has to fight him back. She has to defeat her fiancé in order to save the world. But we know that those who have been turned into a mechon can get their memories back, just like Fiora did, and Gado starts missing all his attacks on Sharla while hitting everyone else. We know he's there, deep down, that there is hope we can have him back, just like we got Fiora back. For a moment, it feels like we can save him, that we can fix everything. We break the curse of memory loss with the help of Lady Mayneth. Sharla gets to see Gado once again. They finally reunite after everything that has happened. But sadly, it doesn't last. The party leave Gado to recover while they go to fight Egil once and for all. After the fight, he causes an explosion, trying to eliminate the party and the city of Agnaratha with them. This blast would kill them if it was not for the shield that Lady Mayneth was creating for them, but she needed more time, and Gado, back in his armor, blocked the blast, allowing them time to escape in what is the most emotional scene in the whole game.
I'm glad I'm on time. There, it's you!
Gado!
I've fulfilled my promise. Live, Sharla.
I have not one thing to my name. I don't even have the power to choose.
Shania lost so much of what was important to her that she didn't really care about anything anymore. She was a member of the city, the surviving line of humans who weren't trapped within the endless cycle of life and death below. Her life was perfect. She loved to paint. It was her calling in life. Her dad and her best friend Gondor fully supported her chosen career. She never did want to be a fighter like so many others in the city. But with the passing of her sister, who was meant to be a great warrior, the tides of expectations slowly started to shift to her. Shania's mother was horrible to her from the beginning. She lauded history and tradition, making sure that Shania felt horrible for wanting to follow the arts instead of fighting, something which her dad fought back against. She was constantly trying to meet expectations from her mother, to prove that she was enough for her, only to get nothing but pushback and disdain in return. Shania wasn't trapped in the same cycle of life and death that everyone else was, but she was trapped in a cycle of misery of her own. She would never be good enough for everyone. Her father passed away after her sister did, leaving her with just her mother for comfort and validation, something which she would never get. Gondor was still by her side, but with the extreme amounts of pressure to succeed and do her family proud in the Ouroboros trials that she was made to do, that relationship crumbled. She could never perform well enough to fulfill her family's legacy and become one of the chosen in the city, and with her mental health failing and her best friend Gondor succeeding in every way in life, she became bitter and reserved. Her mother thought she was a failure to the family. Everyone who believed in her was dead, except Gondor, but even when trying to do something with her life, to get success and validation from somewhere by imitating Gondor to try and mimic her success, she lost that relationship too, as Gondor miscommunicated that she should try to be herself, only leading Shania to believe that she was a cheap imitation of her. She felt rejected by her and everyone else, and lamented that she couldn't do what she loved or make anyone proud. She gave up her love of painting, destroying it all, and was then contacted by Mobius with the promise of a new start and a new life with unlimited power. Throughout this, the main party entered the city and became friends with Gondor and her mother Monica. Again, she was pushed to the side, leading her to follow through with the wishes of Mobius and betray everyone in order to get her new life. She would trigger the events of Agnes Castle, capturing the main party along with Gondor and inadvertently causing the death of Mio. Once the events of that sequence are over and Mobius and En's plans are thwarted, Shania kills herself in front of Gondor, the only chance she had at happiness taken from her. Shania's arc comes to a close when she is resurrected by Mobius and turned into one of them. She finally has the power and the freedom to create her own destiny, free from the shackles of her past. She attacks the city in spite, and then attacks the main party who tried to stop her. Her own reality is so warped at this point. She is so far down the path that was never meant for her, but as she lies defeated by the main party, finally feeling that death is truly coming for her, she realizes that she was loved by those she cared about, like her father and Gondor, and that she did provide happiness for people, but the people who wanted to manipulate her feelings of unworthiness got to her first, and she succumbed to it in the end.
Kinda the same as your talent.
Sounds nice. I like it.
This world. Like, really. And humans, most of all.
I think one of the only faults of Xenoblade 2 is that we didn't spend more time with Mikhail. He is a man ravaged by death and the cruel world he lives in. He hates this world. He says that himself, and his pain starts as soon as Milton dies in his arms. Unlike Milton, we get to see Mikhail once he's grown up, his life ruined by the world he lives in. After the attack on Torna, almost everyone he knows is either dead or has left him. And when Indol attacked the refugee camp he's staying in, killing Laura and returning Hayes back to a core crystal, his anguish is at an all-time high. He's taken in by Indol and experimented on by Amalthus. He becomes a Blade Eater, watching everyone else in the experiments die until he's rescued by Jin. Even though Jin is a friendly face, he has a new path laid out for both of them. He has no choice but to follow Jin and fall to the darkness. Mikhail is taken in by other people so many times that he doesn't have a place or an identity of his own, so he sides with Jin, joining the terrorist group named after the fallen Tornan Titan, alongside Akos, Petroka, and Malos himself. He has sided with the person who started all of his pain in the hopes that he can end it all. Only Jin has suffered as much as Mikhail, and his grief was so all-consuming that he forced himself into a new persona. Gone were the days of his quietness and the little reserved Mikhail that we see in the prequel. He transforms himself into someone so completely different to avoid facing what his reality really is. He fights the party of Xenoblade 2 with his new personality and goal, his grief taking him further and further away from the path of good. At the end of the game, he has lost all sense of purpose towards the goal of Torna. He loves his friends, he has come to love them over the years he spent with them, but he wants to leave this world, to give the people coming after him a better chance than he had. So in the end, he strays away from evil before anyone else does, and attacks Amalthus, one of the men who caused him so much pain, to help the party chase after the rest of his friends. He dies fighting, making a difference, taking out the continent of Indol, where so much of his pain came from, and he goes down, along with Laura's body, where, at least after all he's been through, he can rest forever with one of his friends.
Fool! Who do you take me for? You gotta make it to Elysium!
The death of Vandham is iconic to me, rivaling the death of Fiora in the first game. This is a character whose death is talked about at the forefront of discussions, a character so beloved who made such a big impact in such a short amount of time. We only spend time with Vandham in Chapter 3 of Xenoblade 2. His character doesn't have as much depth or backstory as many others on the list, but his death was the first one in this series that I was exposed to, and he's really stuck in my heart, so I always get into the feels when I think about him. Strangely, like with Dixon, I think his voice acting is what draws me to him the most. I think Simon Thorpe has my favourite voice performance ever because it's so memorable for me. I get emotional when I hear it and I don't know why. It has really stuck with me, and hearing it again in Xenoblade 3 with Guernica was cruel and heartbreaking, but I loved it so much. Back to Vandham though. At this point in the game, every adult has had malicious intent towards us. Torna, Dougal, Morag all want us gone, so when we encounter Vandham and he sides with us, taking us in as his own and treating us with understanding and compassion, we feel a little less lonely in this world out to get us. Vandham teaches Rex so many crucial practical lessons and so many abstract lessons that really shape him throughout the game. He's like the dad, so utterly filled with kindness and willingness to help the party with whatever we need in such a genuine way. He's a mentor to us, teaching us new game mechanics and discussing how the world works with us. He joins the party and becomes a playable character and leads us to think that he's going to be someone who stays with us for the rest of the game. He defends us like we're his own family in Fonzamaima, and when Akos attacks the mercenary camp, he is there and instantly dislikes him. It's so gratifying that there is finally someone out there who hears our plea, who trusts in the great power that Rex has and fights against those who want to confine him. Vandham shows us around his homeland, guiding us to the capital, shares laughs over drinks with us, and tells Rex how to be a better partner for Pyra. He makes such a huge personal impact on us and the cast. We never want him to leave, and we don't expect it either. When Malos and Akos kidnap someone we hold close in the night to draw Pyra out, Vandham is with us to stop them. After a lot of fighting, our power isn't enough to win, not in our current state. We hear the song come in, Drifting Souls, and Vandham steps up to buy us time to escape. All of us are battered, barely able to move on the ground. But he knows he's experienced, the most battle-tested of all of us, as a soldier, so he knows he's our only chance of escaping. Malos is too strong for him though, and in a heartbreaking scene where Vandham plunges his weapons inside of himself, drawing even more power, we think he might now have a chance, but his life is on a timer, and Malos cuts him down. while all we do is lay there, watching him be killed for nothing. We didn't escape, which forces Pyra to awaken the part of her that she concealed away 500 years ago after the death of Milton and the eradication of the Tauren Titan. It's only through the tragedy of Van Damme's life that Pyra is able to overcome her fear of her own power, and while we eventually win, we never forgot the man who shaped us for the rest of the journey to come.
Just go, Rex! Remember to fight your war!
Van Damme!
It's fine. I've got 3 whole days. 3 days is plenty. I'm sure we'll be golden.
These next 2 characters are people that I'm going to make entire videos on. M is a character that I find fascinating and extremely captivating. I've had a video idea on how I want to capture her and her relationship with N for a very long time now, ever since I played the game almost 3 years ago to begin with. I think the time to make that video is coming soon, so forgive me if this is a bit brief, but as a character and everything surrounding her, M is too monumental to confine to such a short write-up. There will be a video about the number 1 spot in a few weeks actually, but for now let's talk about M. Her character and the weight of her death actually hurts me to talk about. I want to do this justice so much, but I just can't in this video. She says herself that she is the personification of regret. Her soul is inexplicably bound to that of Noah, and they share lifetimes and lifetimes in a never-ending 10-year loop, only to suffer again and again in all of them when their time comes to an end. Somewhere along the way, Zed contacts one Noah and brings him to his amphitheater, offering him an entry into his eternal now and an offer to bring his deceased Mio with him too. Noah accepts, and he becomes N. Mio is unconsensually resurrected by N after he makes that deal and becomes M. She spends the rest of her eternal life lamenting the corruption of N, wishing for an exit, miserable under the control of him. He has become possessive and manic, influenced by Mobius, and she dearly wishes to die to make him understand that all that he created is misery. He ruined everything that's sacred about life, and destroyed the world by helping Zed to create an endless cycle of death and war. She wants to escape it, to get her love back, to live a normal life with him, but she is stuck in the body of an unstoppable, immortal killer. Once the Noah and Mio that are currently alive in the present 10-year loop reach M, she uses her signature power to swap bodies with that Mio, while N, out of cruelty and hatred for the Noah in front of him that believes he can stop the cycle and change the world, imprisons what he thinks is the other Mio, when it is actually the M he knows, in an attempt to execute her. What follows is the most emotional hour of cutscenes ever made in a video game, something which I will cover extensively in the future. At the most heartbreaking hour, M is sent off into death through her own plan, putting an end to her trapped life of sadness, hoping to one day be reunited with her love once more.
It's been fun. Noah.
Mio!
Why are you the masters and we the slaves? It is we who embody the very nature of this world.
Once again, I am going to be making a video on Jin very soon, and we will properly dive into his character then. I think the death of Jin and his sacrifice in order to kill Amalthus is my favourite scene in all of gaming, and I also think that Jin as a character is the best villain ever made. With Jin's tale, you can draw a lot of parallels with the story of Mikhail and his journey. His life has been tainted by people who took the people he cared about away from him. He lost his driver twice, first with Ornelia, which wiped his memories of his life, and then again with Laura, where his love for her was so strong that he found a way to let his memories of her live on once she had died by eating her heart and becoming a flesh eater. Jin knew what it was like to be surrounded by people he loved. Laura, Mikhail, Hayes, Adam, Mithra, everyone in her second life in the prequel. Unfortunately, Jin slowly lost every one of those people. Hugo died, wiping out Bridget and Aegeon. Milton died. Laura died. Mithra was effectively dead. Adam disappeared forever, and Jin even killed Hayes himself in the future. He had lost himself. He didn't remember who he was in the past. The only memories he had were of people long gone, and all he saw in the world was war and pain. He sought out answers as to why the world was built in such a horrible way, not believing in it or the path path that Rex chose to fight for. Jin wanted an end more than anyone else in the world, and had shared the pain of all the other characters in the game while also losing his soulmate and identity in the process. He founded Torna based on his ideas, and he made new friends there, but even they did not last. Every one of them except for Malos was killed by Malthus. Jin helped raise Akos and Petroka to be the people they were today, and they were brutally killed by the emotionless Amalthus. Even Mikhail, the only surviving member of his past life that he can call a friend, the only person who stayed with him through so much of his life, was killed by Amalthus too. Amalthus started everything by bringing Malos and Numa into the world, and for Jin, killing the man who started it all was all he ever needed. In the end, he didn't need justice for his pain by killing the architect of this world. It was justice in killing the man that used that power to make the world hell. At the end of his life, Jin saw the light. He couldn't bathe in it, but he kept everyone else in this world shining forever.
You should have died with Torna.
Let's end this now. Our duty has been handed down. Malthus!
Your duty is as dust in the wind compared to my destiny. Architect! I should have been your chosen one! I lived as you wanted me to! I did! I always!
Why did you look so sad like that? That was you too, wasn't it?
Father, why do you not answer my call? Mother, I've missed you.
Jin.
What a splendid soul you were, Jin.
Jin.